Hey, welcome to Scry-fi. We're talking about Strange New Worlds, Season 2, Episode 3, this time tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow. This is the one where basically Lahan goes back in time. We got
spoilers, by the way. This is a review. We're assuming you've seen it already, so we're talking about everything.
Yep, yeah, we were going to talk about the entire episode, so don't watch this before watching that. But she goes back in time with Kirk. Or a different version of Kirk, and has some back in time adventures and comes back. So the first thing that happens is that they show her walking around doing her duties, talking to people. They squeeze in. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just to say they squeeze in the information with her talking to Pelia about where she got all her stuff, right?
She's worried that she's going to have some kind of inner urge to do evil stuff because of her heritage. And
feeling alone, that kind of stuff because of that. She's isolated herself.
Yeah.
Right?
And people have been talking about this whole, well, why isn't she an augment and stuff? I think it's pretty clear that, it's been so many generations that they don't count as an augment anymore. Hundreds of people probably have all been in there given their DNA to her.
I mean, it's likely that Khan had many children, given how much he,
any powerful ruler, I guess, often.
Well, and on top of thinking oh, my genetics are superior, I should have many children to populate the Earth and blah blah, that kind of thing. So it's very popular. Probability. There's a lot of descendants. Of Khan.
Now maybe they have some kind of thing of 1/8. Or something is the limit. And after that, you're no longer. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Or maybe if you're just not a direct byproduct of genetic engineering, like the next level.
Oh, maybe a kid of. Oh, wow.
Yeah, I don't know. So she starts talking to Pelia, right?
Yeah.
And talking about the things that she has that her. Why would you carry all this stuff on the ship?
Here's an interesting thing too. I saw somebody else commenting about this on some site. I can't remember. Sorry, but you remember the episode Requiem for Methuselah in the original series where there was this dude and he ended up being Leonardo da Vinci and. But he was still alive, and he had all that old stuff and everything. So, retroactively, now he didn't say I'm a whatever, but maybe he didn't Lantonite. But maybe for some reason he didn't know. He was a lost kid, and somebody found him, and so he didn't know that he wasn't human. They looked just like humans. Anyway, that would be a fun retcon because that would explain.
Yeah.
That.
That's cool.
Also, I like this character. I like this actress a lot. But the thing is, as soon as they said, "Oh, we're long lived," I was like, "Okay, so we're going to see her in some other."
I didn't realize it'd be this soon.
Yeah.
I do like Lahan as a character, so I thought it was great that she. She had an episode for herself, and it wasn't even about the Gorn too. She has that whole Gorn pass thing.
Yeah, I thought it'd be more about that.
Yeah. Time travel. The minute I saw the name of it, I was like, okay, here we go. You always got to have your time travel.
More time trek. I used for a long time
travel, but
for a long time, every time they just continuously go back and do time stuff, I was like, it's supposed to be Star Trek, not Time Trek. It's too much, made it too easy. Yeah. And then finally got to in Deep Space Nine, they were just setting the transporter for whatever and jumping in like it was no big deal. And I was like, okay, they're getting too advanced. At least this is further back in time, and they don't really have the ability to do it at will, at least.
Deep Space Nine didn't time travel as much as Voyager, I don't think. Well, they had a whole time issues with it. Like, I don't know if they time traveled. They only did once where they went back to 90s Earth and Sarah Silverman.
But over time, though, my point is that over time, I kind of gave up on it and said, okay, well, I just accept it. Star Trek has time. So.
Well, and some of those time travel episodes are amazing. You know, the one where Data's head is found, and it's the two-parter, Time's Arrow, I think. There's some amazing time travel. And of course,
I really liked most of them, actually.
Yeah, in the first one, the first one ever, where Kirk goes back in time to meet what's her name? He's with Spock. Remember, City on the Edge of Forever.
Oh yeah, of course.
So that's it's one of the best episodes of the original series. So
it's one of the best episodes of any Star Trek, really.
Yeah,
it still holds up.
There's still room for time travel, but I was also kind of like, at the same time, I'm asking for those original episode things where they have, like they did in the old Star Trek. This seems like an outlier. Like I want an episode where they go to a planet as a group, they look at things, they see alien stuff, and they deal with it. Like, I just want that.
Once again, it's like they're still sitting in that port. When are you going to go to Strange New Worlds?
These have been great episodes. I'm dying for that.
Yeah, get out there. Right. We need to be out there exploring.
Yeah.
It's like they haven't even finished filling up the car yet with gasoline,
Well, but let's talk about the episode, because it was a good episode. I enjoyed the episode.
Very good. I loved it. Yeah, it's great. And you know what? The dude who plays Kirk, at first I was like, I don't know if I would have picked that dude to play Kirk, but here he's starting to sell me. I really felt the essence of Kirk in him.
Well, okay, so I like the actor. I think he did a great job, had fun and stuff. I'm still not feeling the essence of Kirk.
If you take Kirk and you imagine a little bit younger Kirk, so he's not quite as cool as he's going to be, and then also it's good that he's not just doing like a impersonation of William Shatner. I wouldn't want that.
But he doesn't have the swagger. That's what I'm missing. Like,
maybe he'll get that later.
Well, you're supposed to have that when you're younger and kind of calm down when you get older. It should be more
like an arc. I think he's peaking at TOS, So.
But Chris Pine did a great job of not being William Shatner, but having that good swagger.
Yeah.
Like, as he walked, he had like a confidence and like.
As much as I don't care that much for the Kelvin universe, I have to say Chris Pine did do a great job. So did Zachary Quinto's spot. A lot of them did. The cast, nothing wrong with the cast. But this Kirk, I can accept. I think he's working out fine, especially as not a main character Kirk, like a side dude.
Right.
That we see
well, and that's another thing. That this is yet another episode. 2 out of the 3 episodes, no Pine, no Captain.
Pike.
Pike.
Yeah.
No Pike. And
interesting.
It's fine. It's supposed to be an ensemble cast and stuff, but
I think Star Trek has always worked better at ensemble. It would have been really cool if TOS had been ensemble, where we get some more Uhura episodes.
Yeah. But that's fine. It's just like, I hope the next one is like a good Pike leading the group, doing something awesome.
We'll see. But you're right. It was a good episode, though.
Yeah, still a good episode. Yeah. I'm waiting for that one type of episode, and so but that doesn't mean this wasn't a great episode. So she talks to her. Eventually, some guy pops out of nowhere. I guess
we have to assume this guy is from the far future. Yeah. He's part of the time cops from Federation Far Future. You know about them,
and that was actually kind of cool. I was thinking throughout the whole episode, that's what's going on this whole time. What they call it, like where they fight each other over time.
Well,
stuff that they did.
I don't think this is part of the temporal Cold War that was in Enterprise, but they did mention that. She mentioned that was a thing.
Temporal,
Well, she mentioned it in the context of like there has been this going on, but I don't think this was part of it. I think this was like some other time stuff they were bringing.
This felt like all of that had been calmed down because Archer kind of fixed it all or something. But it's still kind of like today we don't have the Cold War, but Russia and US, like.
And also, this was a like the Romulans. Like this is later we find this out in the episode, so maybe I should wait till then. But later we find out that it's not that she's time traveler. It's that they have this supercomputer that makes these predictions about what's going to happen. But it's hard to believe that there was no advanced technology from the future or knowledge from the future that helped seed that information.
No, they said that she was a time traveler.
Well, no, I thought she said it was just they're just acting off of computer simulations.
No, she said that she's a time traveler, but there's a computer simulation that's telling them if you go back and change this.
About the changes.
Yeah, because remember she said she read all about Kirk and all that stuff. Like
now we know that from Enterprise that it was the Romulans who were being visited by people from the future, right? No, it was the weird looking dudes.
The
green,
the flaky,
yeah. What are they called?
Starts with an S. I can't remember.
Sona,
something like that. Yeah.
No, the Sona are the plastic surgery people.
I think that's the name of the main bad guy of those people.
Oh well. Anyway. Yeah.
Well,
okay. So it's probably some future interference going on there, and they're trying to like stamp out the Federation.
There's obviously a lot of Easter egg stuff connected to many things with Khan and Enterprise, the Enterprise series, and it's all like in here, and it's really great. And you don't need to know them to enjoy the episode, but we could just branch out on everything that's talked
Let's go back to the beginning and make sure we don't miss anything.
So she meets her, amongst other, they sprinkle in some other fun little stuff she has to deal with, but they're showing that she's like isolated, alone kind of thing. She's upset. She and Mbenga, they fight each other. I guess they spar.
Oh yeah.
That was kind of cool to see him doing that too, because you saw him previously.
Now you know he's a good fighter.
It's like, it's not just the juice that makes him a good fighter. Like he's really well trained.
I think you mentioned something else about Vulcans too. Can't remember.
Yeah,
but I really like that character though. I really like him.
Yeah, I like all these characters. So they do that. They show her frustration, and then the guy pops out of nowhere. He's been shot. He dies. It says, "Here, take this. Go back in time." Kind of thing.
I like how the thing that he hands her looks like it was disguised to look like a communicator from their time period, but it has a little different thing on it. Anyway, it was just a neat device design.
I just thought it looked like a little computer mouse with a button on top. But yeah, so he pops out and stuff, and then she walks out on the bridge, which
look at her little belt there in that picture. Go back to that picture of her.
I was just here.
There, yeah. Look at that little belt with a little pouch. I've never seen anything like that before.
I wish you can carry stuff.
Steal stuff.
So she goes on to the, I don't know what's going on right here. What is
that was the thing going on with the Vulcan ship with Spock on it was
right.
So that's also kind of weird. It's like, now in the original series, Spock described it like it's like a river where water flows and there's certain things that are more likely to happen than other things. And so the meeting of Sarek and Amanda took place in this universe too, and they produced Spock.
Yeah.
Alternate universe Spock.
Yeah.
That's what allows you to have these stories instead of go to another universe and everybody's got three eyes.
So they turn this. Kirk's got the Enterprise. We don't know what happened to Pike and all that stuff. They don't know her. I love this guy on the left. His face. That's
he's a little overdoing it.
Yeah.
I actually thought that they underreacted. It was like, okay, you don't know who this person is, and they're wearing some kind of slightly different uniform, and then he goes, okay, and he goes back and deals with other stuff, and it's like with this person standing behind him, it's like,
Should be like, security, grab that person. We don't know.
Yeah, red alert. It could be like an alien that's about to like shoot him with laser beams out of our eyes or something.
Right. So anyway, she's like, "Can I talk to you in your ready room?" He's like, "Sure, let me have the intruder walk into my captain's ready room."
By myself with no security.
Yeah.
Who knows what this
little weird
thing is. Okay.
But anyway, so they struggle with the device and they pop up back in time. They could have easily just had him get up and go, "Come on, you got to go to Brig or something," and she'd grab him and that happened or something. But whatever. Nitpick.
Yeah.
So they pop. I did like the idea. Oh, I thought they were in New York until she said, "This is Toronto."
Yeah, it's good.
I thought that was
somewhere else.
Yeah, but I thought it was funny because it's like a thing that Toronto is like this huge big city and stuff, and nobody ever goes to it or talks about it on any of these shows. It's always New York, right?
And also, we find out that he doesn't really know much about Earth because, Earth was devastated with his history.
You can see, he has a different emblem right here than she does because they don't have.
It's so thick. I would have thought that was a communicator, or some other kind of tech. But he said he didn't have a communicator. So
yeah. So they pop up into Toronto. They walk around. They have to. He has to play chess at one point. We find out he's really good at chess.
No, we knew that because he played against Spock.
Yeah.
A 3D version of it, anyway.
Yeah. So some things are the same. They talk about hot dogs for a little bit. And there's a lot of fun little stuff. I mean, there's this moment here. Let me get to where he gets stuck in the rotating thing. I thought that was a little silly, but it's all right.
Yeah, it's not that hard of a thing to figure out. I think if you'd never seen one before, you probably would know that you're supposed to get, but whatever.
Yeah. He's like, "I've only been in space my whole life, so they don't have rotating doors." I'm like, "Yeah, but you can see through the glass."
I mean, yeah, it's pretty obvious to see what's going on there. I mean,
you saw me go through it, right?
Yeah.
It's fine. It's silly.
I know they wanted to do a little silly thing like that, but that could have been a little better. But anyway,
but yeah, they sneak in there. It's interesting that she figures out how to get past the security since she's a security officer.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
Like she goes, "Oh, I know. They probably have alarms and all that." Like that was pretty neat. And he kind of gave her a look like, it's pretty smart there. Mm-hmm. And even at the beginning, whenever they're talking stuff, she kind of gives him a look like, okay, there's a little romantic thing going to happen here. It's Kirk. It's got to happen. Right?
I didn't really catch that at this point. It kind of surprised me later. I thought I saw camaraderie, but I didn't really see anything romantic at this point yet. At least I didn't.
Yeah, at some point they get a really expensive hotel room.
I know. When I saw that, I was like, man, they must have done really well. They just don't even care. They went
way
all out.
Too well. Like, if you're trying to lay low and just sleep for the night and get on to the next meeting,
you'd have some little shack or some
like
little tiny
$300 night.
I know.
Room. Had different rooms and big. It was up high. You could see like the skyline. They were in downtown area. Like, whoa.
Yeah.
I don't know why they had to do that, but anyway.
Maybe you could have just been like, well, this is a hotel. You walk in. How much is it? Oh, $800.
I don't know.
That's what hotel rooms cost. Give them maybe. But
yeah, I don't know. And also, can you get a hotel room like that without any ID or any? Like, you could just give them cash?
Yeah. See, that's really interesting too. Maybe they skipped over that, but they pulled some kind of little bribery
thing. They just snuck into the room or something? Or
no, I think they probably, I don't know. Maybe they bribed the person like, oh, I lost my card. We're out of luck. Help us out.
Yeah, we're not trying to pick holes. It's just, kind of funny.
That's a good point, though. It would have been tough. There would have been a little thing about
it would have made a lot more sense to just get in a little motel or something that you can pay to get there.
Oh, well.
So anyway, a big bridge blows up. I'm the big giant bridge that connects. I'm guessing.
Yeah, and I'm curious if that's a real bridge or not. I wonder.
Well, it's definitely not a real bridge now, but is it a concept of something that? Yeah. But yeah, it's because they said it was just built, and they're in the mid 21st century, right? So it's like 20 years, 30 years ahead of time. Which good for them. They don't have flying cars and all that stuff, right?
Was that bridge supposed to have gone? I'm looking at Google Maps right now. Across Lake Ontario.
I don't know.
Ontario. Yeah.
I mean, that'd be kind of silly to do. We're already well connected to Canada. I would think that bridge is supposed to like go out and connect to other countries or something. That's what they said.
Well, if it connects across to Niagara Falls, Buffalo's down that way.
I mean, there's already a bridge connecting Niagara Falls. I saw it earlier this year.
Yeah.
But anyway, so bridge blows up. They both say that's supposed to happen, so that's interesting. But the way it blows up, so what's happening here is what was supposed to happen, that kind of time travel kind of thing.
Yeah, and I thought that was really clever to have the get to the bridge. So really, she wasn't supposed to involve Kirk. He was just, a misunderstanding.
Yeah, get to the bridge. So she sees the little issues on the metal or something and go, oh, that's that kind of explosion. They shouldn't have that. Forget what it was, proton or something. Photonic. And so they try to follow the thing, and they ask some girl to see her camera and stuff. She turns out to be, her name was Sarah, apparently.
Sarah.
Her. S-E-R-A.
Okay.
When she showed up the second time, like, I was following him. I was like, oh, okay, this is like their Sarah Silverman character.
Well, I also thought she was obviously some kind of she could have been a time traveler. I didn't foresee what eventually got revealed, but I thought, she's not just some random person.
Well, I like that she started going, oh, it's the aliens, and like, oh, okay, it's a crazy person. It totally makes you not suspect her because she went with this whole crazy kind of thing. And they're like, well, she is crazy, but she's also kind of right. So
you can be crazy and right by chance, though. Doesn't mean she's going to be helpful to have around.
Yeah. Believe 50 conspiracy theories.
Oh, but when one of her photos had a picture of a Romulan bird of prey in it, Kirk recognized that, and he was like, oh, okay.
I think that was a test. Now that we know, if she showed that, Kirk was like, oh, this is... He didn't say anything in front of her, but he went, let me see that.
It was obviously new.
Also,
you're right. It could have been a test she was doing on them to see what they
did a really good job of dodging all of the stuff that La'an shouldn't know. So first of all, La'an shouldn't know what a Romulan looks like.
Right.
And she shouldn't know what a Romulan ship looks like. So when she saw the ship, she didn't know what it was. Because in this,
he didn't say anything.
Yeah.
He didn't give it away.
Haven't seen anything. Right.
Yeah. So La'an still at the end of this episode doesn't know that was a Romulan ship.
And the only thing he said about her whenever they found out who she was, he said, oh yeah, I missed the ears or something like that. That has nothing. She could be blue with
still weird, doesn't really know.
Yeah, it doesn't say anything. Right? So I thought they did a great job of not giving her information that she shouldn't have. That she would definitely report.
He knows there's a Romulan, but it's been disguised to look like a human. But that doesn't tell you what Romulans look like. Right. Yeah, clever. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I thought this actress did a great job. I thought she was fun. Mm-hmm. It was actually when she grabbed La'an too, I was like, oh right, they're stronger than humans because she just threw her around.
Yeah.
I was like,
that was a neat little attention to detail that they did because they're basically biologically Vulcan. Which is really
cool.
You remember one of the best displays of that was in Star Trek V when Sybok was picking up Kirk and just throwing him against the wall and stuff.
Yeah, it just looked like a thin old guy, but he picks Kirk up and throws him. Yeah, that's great. So yeah, before this though, they do before finding out about this, they go talk to Pelia in her time, and I thought it was kind of fun. Like they kind of put her on the path to be an engineer.
Yeah. Now you don't know if maybe what happened was there was this original thing where she just happened to become an engineer later, and then they go back and they say that, and so it kind of just reinforces it even more.
I think the bridge blowing up is kind of a sign that everything that happens in this episode has already happened in both of their timelines.
I see.
So when she goes and tells her this stuff, I like that La'an didn't even tell her she was a time traveler. Like this is the first time you ever see anyone smartly do the things.
Well, she knew you're not supposed to tell people about the future. So it doesn't matter if she's not a time traveler or if she's long lived. I mean, if you went back in time to any other character, like just say you went back in time 10 years, it's still within their lifetime, but you wouldn't tell them about the future. So it's the same principle here. It's just much longer. So that's cool.
This may be the first time you ever see a time travel thing happen where they're like, oh, we're not supposed to tell them that we're from the future, and they don't.
Yeah.
It's always right at the end, like, by the way, we're from the future and all this stuff happens. Bye. And then you're like, ooh, hope that didn't change anything.
I did think it was clever though to have it go, I'm not an engineer. I don't know anything about engineering. They're like, wow.
Yeah. You're like, oh no, we wasted our time. Yeah, that's funny. Well, she did know some stuff. She knew about the watch and all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, she did a great job here. It was fun to tie in the thing, but it almost seems like they should have had the scene of her bringing on her art in the last one, or like at the, like a little bit.
Yeah.
Because it would
have been cool to see that seeded earlier.
Yeah. But that's fine.
Yeah.
So then, of course, big elephant in the room is she meets Khan.
Oh yeah. Well, you jumped ahead pretty far, but
yeah, well, we kind of went all around. So yeah, they go and they search for the.
I mean, you skipped over Kirk dying.
That's true. Well, yeah,
that was a neat scene.
Yeah, Kirk gets shot by Sarah, and this scene actually, isn't it? Yeah, right there, basically.
Oh yeah.
Right before that scene.
I thought when he said, "Oh, you're bluffing" or something like that. I mean, he didn't really have a good reason to think that she wouldn't shoot him.
Well, that's the weird thing. He was like, if you shoot, then the alarms will go off in this building. And she said, you're bluffing. What is he bluffing about? Like, no, people will hear it. There'll be alarms. Yeah, I understand what they were doing. They were trying to show like, oh, again, he doesn't have that swagger, and they were trying to put that swagger in there, like, oh, I'm going to bluff my way through all this, like I do everything, and then it fails, and he dies. It fails because he doesn't have the swagger.
I thought he felt pretty charismatic. I think he seemed like charismatic.
He's charismatic, but he doesn't. He just doesn't have the. It's this overconfidence. This everything's gonna go my way, walk down the hallway, smiling, how's it going? Kind of feel that Kirk has that I just haven't gotten from him or anything. I still like the actor. I'm fine with it. I'm not like upset about anything like that, but it's just not hitting it just right for me. It's fine.
Okay, so now we get to see Baby Khan.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's interesting
that he's actually Indian.
Yeah.
Or Sikh, I should say.
Yeah.
It actually looks like someone who would be from that. And so it's interesting because Ricardo Montalban obviously is not. But at least, somewhat similar skin tones. The
supposed to be, yeah.
It looks a little darker, but I mean, they're not necessarily, because we don't, in all likelihood, if they ever showed grown-up Khan, it would be a different actor anyway. So everybody looks a little different, just like Pike and all that. But.
Oh, and there was something really fascinating they did here. In fact, you spoke about it, I think, last episode, where she talks about how the eugenics wars were supposed to happen in 1992.
Oh yeah.
Because of this temporal warp thing that's going on.
Right. Now, what this means is that the original series. Okay, so we also talked. I think what we talked about was that in Deep Space Nine, in the Bashir episode, they're talking about the eugenics war,
right?
And they say it happened 200 years ago. And I remember thinking at the time, wait, it's 300 years ago. Did they shift when the eugenics wars happened? And then since then, there's been another comment. It might have been in Enterprise, or it might have even been in one of these series, where they say something like the eugenics wars were part of World War III. And we know that World War III happened much later.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously there's been, and then this confirms that it was going to happen in the 90s, but they keep trying to prevent it, but it happens anyway. It's like the Terminator, how they kept trying to stop the Terminators from arriving, but they kept arriving anyway, just at a later date. So, and it's also that thing about why there's a Spock in the other universe. Certain things just, in complex systems theory, they call it attractors. There's just a certain way that the variables overlap, or certain things are just more likely to happen. But anyway, what this means, though, is that the original series, at least as we originally saw it, is in a universe that's different from the other series, at least insofar as the date of the eugenics wars. Now, maybe it doesn't matter too much to the outcome of things, because, you think about World War III, which happens much later, I think 2060 something. And so World War III kind of forms this wall where, like, there was so much destruction and devastation that that changes before that time maybe wouldn't be as big of a deal on all the events that follow after that, because of so much was just wiped out and obliterated anyway. So maybe that's what they're saying, is that, like, so there was this point where Spock says it happened in the 90s. And then if you could go back and watch that episode again, but after the shift, Spock would have said in the 2090s, or something like that, whatever other date. But it wouldn't have really changed too much on the, you get kind of like prime-ish universe, like close enough.
Yeah, I mean, she says, I was here in 92 when it was supposed to happen, but it didn't happen, and I've been waiting 30 years. So she is here. This is happening in our year, 2023, basically.
Probably.
Around a year or so around there. But if she's been waiting 30 years, she time traveled,
so that means
for 30 years,
for this kid to be old enough, maybe another 20 or 30 years. So we're talking the eugenics wars happening somewhere around 2040 to 2055, maybe.
2050-ish.
Yeah, and that puts it right before World War III in the 2060s.
It works out.
And it means that, like, it explains why we in real life don't have the eugenics wars happening in the 1990s.
It's smart. It's an interesting way of doing it. She has a "should I kill baby Hitler" moment here, basically, right? Now, of course, she's related to baby Hitler, so it adds a new layer. But
she's starting to realize, like, a bunch of good stuff happened that wouldn't have happened if it hadn't been for this bad stuff.
Right.
So that's a cool arc for her.
It's interesting to put. It's interesting to put the bad guy as the one trying to kill baby Hitler, because she knows, and I'm saying baby Hitler because Noonien Singh is basically like the next one of those kind of things, right?
Right.
Millions, all that stuff, tortured and all that stuff. So it's interesting, though, because if you watch a movie today where someone goes back in time, they probably wouldn't cast the bad guy as trying to do that. But we know that, after World War II, all this good stuff happens, and you wouldn't want to undo a lot of that stuff, right? So
like, you could easily imagine, like, let's say you go back in time and you kill Hitler, and you think, oh, that's a good thing to do. And then you come back to the present and you realize that what happened was that without the devastation at Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and without the political structures that arose after World War II, it made it more likely for us to have a world war with nuclear weapons. And so now you come back and the whole world is devastated by nuclear weapons.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. So it's interesting to flip that coin a bit, to make the good guy make the decision of, no, you have to let that happen in order for the greater good kind of stuff. It's always an interesting thing. That's why people talk about it all the time. But
it's also a classic thing about a being against playing God and thinking you're going to manipulate all the strings. And we don't have enough information or intelligence to really do that.
Right.
Well,
so it's interesting. Like, so this kid's supposed to grow up and be evil and all that stuff, get on the Botany Bay and go out there someday and meet Kirk, who...
Yeah, now that's interesting too. It's like you leave at a different time from Earth in the Botany Bay, but somehow they still come across that ship in a similar place or time. Yeah. So, you know, it's one of those, well, timey-wimey things that you just sort of hand wave and say, you know, things sort of, you know, attract toward certain likelihood.
This was a really interesting episode for the character of Lahan, though.
Yeah, obviously it was all about her coming to terms with her past. And,
she goes back to basically she goes back to her room after all this is over and stuff, and that's where we see someone sitting in her room. By the way, that's pretty bold. Like, she just got done with all this stuff and someone's there and you're in the security officer's room. Like, what if she just turned around and shot a phaser and, you know.
Well, she just looked and says, no, that doesn't happen. Maybe. I don't know. I guess they don't know everything once they're in the time stream, but it's the classic, you know, spy agency thing. We're just here and
sitting in the room to let you know how powerful they are, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, she describes the temporal war. I like that they tied it to that, and that there's all the stuff we're discussing where they connect and stuff like that. But I just want to, I kind of hope that they don't go into the whole temporal war.
No, I don't feel like they're going.
Yeah, I feel like that was well established and played with in Enterprise, and it was fun to mention it here. I just hope it's not a big...
I think this was a one-off little side adventure, and it was very odd because almost none of the rest of the cast were in this, hardly at all.
She had one partner, and they chose someone who wasn't part of the ensemble to do it with.
Yeah. And were they filming this season during COVID?
I don't think so.
Or is it already past all that?
Yeah, I think that was past at that point. Yeah.
So I'm trying to figure out, was there something going on that made them need to not have everybody there? No.
No, I think they just wanted a La'an-focused one. And then the next one might be about Uhura. It might have Pike in it. It might, you know, at some point you are going to trek through the stars, right?
There will be trekking in this Star Trek.
Yeah. But no, I like the episode. I kind of think they should have pushed it a little further, like I said, and have just give us some good Trek episodes of going to planets and doing things, and then do that. You know,
it's still hard to tell what the arc of the season is going to really be.
Yeah, I mean, they mentioned the Gorn War in the first episode, and so maybe they're just trying to put some distance. Yeah,
I think the Gorns are going to be the big baddie at the climax of the season.
Yeah, kind of, and that's fine. Gorns are interesting. Gorns they're so far removed from what we culturally can work with. Like, you can't send diplomats to the Gorn homeworld.
You could easily make the Gorn be the Borg of this.
Exactly. Period, they're the uncompromising evil that they're going to have.
And what's cool about that is that it shows and explains why, as soon as Kirk found out that it was the Gorn that hit Cestus 3, he was like, we got to chase that ship down and destroy it. And it was like, there was no, we're going to negotiate. We're just going to take it out, you know, because they'll be back with more force if we don't.
Yeah, and they never explored that sense about why it was. Oh, you gotta keep a lid on the Gorn, or else the minute they start fight. Yeah, so it's interesting that we get to play with it here. Yeah.
One thing I would love to see though is like have it be like where it's really hot on the Gorn ship, and like when the Gorn come into like our temperature ranges, they move slow, and so they want it to be hot because then they can speed up and move at a normal rate.
So
that would be a cool way to explain why the Gorn was all slow like that in that episode.
And the episode, the arena, where he's like, he was injured or something. I don't know.
And maybe he had arthritis. It was just that one captain, because obviously they're not going to make them do that. They're not going to, like that. So it would be cool if, like, no, on their ship they have a much hotter temperature range, and when they're in their temperature range, then they can move fast.
Maybe. Although they were fighting on like an almost desert planet anyway. It didn't look
still kind of in our range.
Well,
but I don't think they need to do that. They've changed enough of other stuff before. They'll just make them be cool. But
that other guy just had issues.
He was hiding the capabilities of the Gorn by pretending to use them.
But yeah, so another good episode. It's not the one I was hoping for, but it was still good. And I shouldn't dislike the episode because it's not what I was hoping for yet. And we'll get those. I'm sure we'll get those where they have their classic episodic go to planet, investigate thing kind of stuff.
Yeah. I really don't know what they're doing. Why are they just sitting there in port?
Well, they were moving when she got back and she went to the bridge and saw Pike and her and all.
Oh, yeah.
They were moving. Okay. So they're going somewhere. It's a 5-year mission. They just started, I guess.
Yeah. They didn't just start. They've been doing stuff, and then they came back and
they've been recovering from season 2, I guess, for a while.
And we know from Kirk's 5-year mission that being on a 5-year mission doesn't mean 5 years in deep space exploring. It just means 5-year.
He would go to Deep Space 5 and mess with tribbles sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah, another great episode. Any other thoughts?
I don't think so. All
right. Well, thanks for watching. We'll have another episode out after the 4th one next week.
Yep.
Thank you.